All right, welcome back to the channel. It is solid proof that Gervonta Davis is the biggest star in boxing under the weight of 147 pounds, bar none. And the reason that I say that is because guys like Carl Frampton are willing to go on kamikaze missions to fight him while they're ducking great fighters right in their own weight class. Let's talk about what Carl Frampton, coming off of his win, had to say about Gervonta Davis and Abner Mares in this video. All right, welcome back, welcome back. So, Gervonta Tank Davis is called out. Is that the right way to say it? He is now the target of a former 126-pound IBF world champion, former conqueror of Leo Santa Cruz and Nonito Donaire, Carl the Jackal Frampton. Now, I find it really interesting that Carl Frampton's name is his alias is the Jackal, because that's what Guillermo Rigondeaux's name is. A guy, El Chical, the Jackal. But one Jackal find a way to run away from the other Jackal up out on 122 pounds to 126 pounds. Now I do believe he's going to 130 pounds, right? Looking for a championship in his third division. And says, this is Carl Frampton, that he would be a better fight for Gervonta Davis than Leo Santa Cruz is. Now, why would he say that? Well, Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton split 2 fights. I do believe that was back. They fought back in was it 2017 or 2018? I think it was 2017 they fought back to back. The first fight, Carl Frampton won by a majority decision. In this rematch, Leo Santa Cruz won by majority decision. Both of them were good fights. I really remember the second one most clearly, and I thought, the Leo Santa Cruz definitely won that fight. Right, but those guys are around the same level of fighter. And Leo Santa Cruz has a pay-per-view fight coming up against Gervonta Davis on Showtime pay-per-view. Carl Frampton says that he would make a better fight for Gervonta Davis than Leo Santa Cruz. Okay, in my opinion, that's like saying I would make a better I would survive longer if I was hit by a truck than you would. Because I'm 20 pounds heavier than you, and I'm more muscular than you, that when this truck hits me, I have a higher likelihood of surviving for a few more minutes than you would. We both going to die, but, you're going to die a little bit more seriously or more painfully, right? All right, sorry about that. Dog. Zeus is the name of my dog, and he at the wrong time consistently barks at the wrong time. However, let's get back to it. So, anyway, Carl Frampton is willing to move up to fight Gervonta Davis, but he's not willing to fight Gary Russell Jr. at the same weight class as him. He wasn't willing to fight Guillermo Rigondeaux when he was at 122, but he's willing to go up there and fight Gervonta Davis in a fight that he has next to no chance of winning whatsoever. Leo Santa Cruz barely has a chance, and that's because and the only chance that Leo Santa Cruz really has is if Gervonta Davis has to drain himself down below, because he has to get down to 130 pounds, or supposed to have to get down to 130 pounds for this fight, that some of those dudes are hoping that Gervonta Davis is going to drain himself. I think that they are sorely mistaken, because Gervonta Davis did not miss weight at 135 pounds, and he made the fight before that, he made 130 pounds, right? And it really didn't matter what weight class Gervonta Davis is weighing in at, 130 or 135. He always seems to be like a half pound off within, other than when he lost his belt to Francisco Fonseca, where he's like, man, I'm 3 pounds over, I can't do it. But he missed by 3 pounds one fight against Francisco Fonseca, and then the next fight made weight easy. So I don't know if this is something that's really going to affect him and get where he gets drained down. But if he doesn't get drained down, dude, that is an absolute slaughter about to happen to Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz knows it. Mikey Garcia knows it. Robert Garcia knows it. Leo Santa Cruz's daddy knows it. His mama knows it. If he got some kids, they know it too. There ain't no way he's getting up out of there without a whooping. Same thing for Carl Frampton, right? Same thing for Carl Frampton. But because Gervonta Davis comes with the big paycheck and they're later in their career, they're willing to go up there and fight Gervonta Davis. Because what happens if they lose to Gervonta Davis? Nothing. They just move right back down and wait, and they're set up with another championship fight. Just kind of like Carl Frampton, right? Carl Frampton, think about this. Carl Frampton is nowhere near the level of Gary Russell Jr. as a fighter. Nowhere near. But got two fights with Leo Santa Cruz. Got a fight with Josh Warrington. Well, I guess Josh Warrington got a fight with him, right? And he's going to move up. He's going to get a shot against Jamel Herring, right? These are all, I'm sorry, I like Jamel Herring. He seems like a great person. But Jamel Herring is not the level of talent of a Gary Russell Jr. Leo Santa Cruz is not the talent of a Gary Russell Jr. He's not the skill set of a Gary Russell Jr. None of these dudes are the same skill set as a guy like Guillermo Rigondeaux. But you're matching up and calling the big fights, the fights between two middle of the pack or middle of the top pack. Because obviously Carl Frampton is not a lower level fighter. Don't get me wrong. But among the top 10 guys, 11 guys in a weight class, right? Gervonta Davis is at the tip top of that. Gary Russell Jr. is at the tip top of it. And Guillermo Rigondeaux is at the tip top of the talent level at the weight classes that he's fighting at whether it's 122 or 118. And that's at the age of damn near 40 for Guillermo Rigondeaux. But they can't fight him. They can fight each other. They can fight the Leo Santa Cruz, can fight Gary Russell, can fight Carl Frampton. Josh Warrington can fight Carl Frampton, right? But they're both willing to go up there and fight Gervonta Davis as long as when they get their ass whooped, they can move back down and continue to fight each other. But meanwhile, the guy right in the same weight class for him with the most talent that you know he ain't going to be able to beat, they refuse to fight. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think it has anything to do with Gary Russell Jr. I don't think it has anything whatsoever to do with this dude's ticket sales or anything like that. Because Carl Frampton is willing to go fight Jamel Herring. If Carl Frampton is willing to fight Jamel Herring, then Jamel Herring's no more popular than Gary Russell Jr. is. It's just that Gary Russell Jr. is the better fighter. So when you see these moves, when you see that somebody like a Leo Santa Cruz willing to fight Gervonta Davis, you see Carl Frampton trying to fight Gervonta Davis. Abner Mares was trying to fight Gervonta Davis originally I thought Abner Mares might have just been, got a sense of being smart, just wised up and faked his eye injury. But I've been looking at his eye and I still owe him an apology. I think I gave him an apology after that happened originally. Then nah, man, I think that really he did get his eye knocked sideways because it's still sideways. It doesn't look like it's lined up. So there was probably a lot of truth to that. However, and so in that case, he was willing to fight Gervonta Davis. None of those dudes have a shot. None of them believe they got a shot. But they would do it for the paycheck and the fact that when they lose to him, everybody expects them to lose to him. But so they would rather lose that way than fight a guy where people don't know, right? Like, well, we don't know. Who has Gary Russell Jr. fought? Who has he fought? Who has he beaten? Yeah. So you can say, well, I don't know. We don't know if Gary Russell Jr. could beat Carl Frampton. We don't know if Gary Russell Jr. can beat Leo Santa Cruz. Carl Frampton knows. Leo Santa Cruz knows. And that's why they won't fight him. But we continue to excuse them, and we get with all of these stupid championship belts, and that's another video we're going to do. It just has allowed so much room for people to duck the best fighter, to refuse to fight the best fighter. Because the best fighter 126 for years now has been Gary Russell Jr., and the rest of these dudes have been coming in and out of the weight class and looking for anything other than him. Same thing applied to Guillermo Rigondeaux and Frampton going up there trying to fight Gervonta Davis or saying that he would do a better job with Gervonta Davis is like, who cares? You're going to lose to Gervonta Davis just like Leo Santa Cruz is going to lose to Gervonta Davis. But you are at a weight class where there's other guys that you can fight that with people would like to see the fight. But you don't want that smoke because you think if you lose, you're going to lose and look bad. Because if you lose to Gary Russell Jr., you lost to a little ass dude. You know what I mean? Gary Russell Jr. at the weigh-in is going to be looking up at Carl Frampton. Slightly, not a lot, but he's going to be looking up at Carl Frampton. He's not going to be, in the fight, he's going to look like the smaller man. But he's also going to look like the much faster man, the much sharper man, and he's going to dominate that fight from pillar to post. And when you lose to Gary Russell Jr. like that, you might actually get sat down in the back seat like, nah, yeah, if you can't beat Gary Russell Jr., why would I ever give you a fight with Tank? You're going to get blown away, right? But by not fighting Gervonta Davis, by not fighting Guillermo Rigondeaux, they hold on to this false status that those phony belts give them. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.